Hey.
Hey,
Lauren,
man.
Good to see you.
Good
What's
to see
happening?
you too.
I got
This
a real
is cool.
celebrity here today. Like, this is
Yeah.
like, I mean, like, I know Adam Stewart's a celebrity, and obviously Debbie Weinstein's a celebrity, but this is like a real
Oh,
Google
yeah.
celebrity. Kevin Allocca, everybody, Global Director of Culture and Trends
That's right.
for Behind the Drums, man.
I love this.
Here we are behind the drums.
This is cool.
You know, I taught myself how to play the drums. I'm not like a trained drummer, but I think I can get by. I'm from New Jersey. I play like heavy metal music.
You go hard.
Like, yeah, just like, you know.
If I learned to play the drums, that would be the only thing I'd learn how to play. I just mastered that, and I'd be just whip it out and then step away.
Yeah, but you were telling me before that you don't play the drums, but you watch drum videos on YouTube.
I do. I love
What's
it.
that about?
So, do you know Drumeo?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Drumeo's YouTube channel is awesome, and they have this segment where they basically take a drum, like you take like the drummer from Megadeth and play Mr. Brightside, which they've never heard before, and then have them without the drum beat, and then they just have to lay the track down.
Oh my God.
And then it's just like so cool to see what choices they make and when they overlap exactly with the Killers versus like where they vary it, and then they'll play it back at the end and you see them like, oh, I love that they made that choice there. And I don't know, I like artists unpacking and like indulging the craft of the work, you know? I find that just so invigorating to watch. And so even though I can't play the drums, like watching an expert drummer try to work through their craft, I love it.
So tell me a little bit about being the director of, or the global director of trends and culture.
Yeah.
at Google.
So basically, I work on a lot of different projects around how people find and understand what's popular on the platform. So I work on consumer-facing things like different product features of how we surface trending content. We do a lot of research into different phenomena, and then we kind of put out different things that help. So like, you know, we changed the YouTube logo. We figure out what communities get featured and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing it for a long time. Started in 2010, which was kind of peak like viral video era of YouTube. And today it's kind of a whole other thing. But we have a team spread out all over the world. So we don't just look at what's happening in the US, we're looking at what's happening in India and Brazil and France and Germany all at the same time and finding the connections or differences, which are often some of the most interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, what's super interesting to me. So I got involved in the content creator space in what I call, I guess it was like digital influencer creator economy 1.0 back in like 2012. Remember the multi-channel network space, and I got to really see the power of creators and this one-to-one connection that they had with their audiences, and they had millions of subscribers and billions of views, and they're creating content that really matters to an audience. How are you seeing that evolve now? This is so many years later in 2024. What trends are you seeing with creators that are really resonating with audiences?
Well, I think there's a few interesting things that have kind of happened in that time. I mean, there's so many different interests. I mean, part of what has made YouTube distinct in a lot of ways in culture is it's the place where people go deep and on the things they really love, like the drums, right? We were just talking about the Drumeo channel and stuff, right? It's a place for that. And so you have, what's happened is a lot of big creators start in a place that feels really specific to something that they're really interested in, and then an audience just arrives for that thing, which is one of the fundamental premises that has made digital video so different from the entertainment that you and I grew up with when we were kids, right? Is that this content can exist and then it finds an audience, right? So today's manifestation of a lot of that means that you end up with a whole bunch of kind of new behaviors that are emerge around that type of a thing. So communities of channels, which is why I mentioned before that when we change the logo, it's often like a community of channels that were stop motion artists or synthesizer, you know, channels and stuff. There's these whole dynamics that exist around different communities of things. And then now we're also seeing that intersect with a lot of the multi-format stuff. So you see a lot of creators today are playing across lots of different formats for different purposes to reach their audience in different ways, which obviously wasn't a thing back at that time. And you know, this kind of new set of tools that's emerged for them and is still emerging right now is changing that even further.
So, I mean, the paradigm on content creation has changed dramatically, right? And you know what I do. I sell ads to advertisers. You know, what's interesting is, and we hear this a lot, this notion of what does premium content mean? Brands want to be associated with what I think there was a definition of premium content that I'm not sure exists today based on what you see from culture and trends and content creators, an entire platform that has basically grown this whole new type of creator, this whole new type of content. What does it mean to be premium? If you're a brand, why should you be thinking about YouTube as a place for premium content? Or why should you see content from a creator as premium that dispels kind of what your notion of premium was prior?
Yeah. And I'm going to answer this by telling you how I talk to people who are trying to understand YouTube in the first place, which, I deal with a lot, and given, what I do. And, when you're trying to understand a phenomena that maybe feels new to you or unexpected to you, the way to understand that phenomena is to try to just step away from the objective, what we call the objective quality of the content, and focus on the subjective experience of the viewer, right, of the audience. And that's like how I think about a lot of pop culture today, and especially in the digital video space, is the objective qualities of the content in a lot of cases. I mean, it's not like they don't matter entirely. Obviously, we're in a time now where you see higher production value in terms of, fidelity of the video content and the editing. And then I think a lot of the new tools that are coming about are making that even easier for a lot of creators. And so that good sound always matters to a degree. But there's a line, like when we're having this conversation, we're talking a lot about like prestige, expensive content, right, versus one-man band type of stuff. And from a viewer perspective, it's all about what is the thing that they're getting from the content, right? What is the subjective experience that you are having as a viewer? And so for me, as someone who's trying to understand popular culture, whether or not something is like, has an elaborate team behind it or not is irrelevant to me. It's how deep is the experience for the person who's actually watching the thing, because that gets into what matters to people. So anyway, this is a long way of saying, like, I really feel like the way that the audience defines their experience is far more important than I think these objective qualities that we try to impose on the content.
No, and I appreciate that. And I think that's really an important message for our customers to hear from somebody who studies it every single day as your job, to really understand it's all about how you're going to make that connection, with that consumer. And what is that content vessel that's going to help you make that connection? And I just think it's a different space. You're describing it exactly how I think we need to think about it from a media standpoint and an advertising standpoint. And I think it's evolving. And I think it's evolving slower than the actual space is moving.
So 56% of the people that we surveyed across all the different markets that we ran this in told us that they watch content that no one they know personally is interested in. And so the idea, like, there's something that they watch that no one else that they know in their life also is into, which was impossible, frankly, when we were younger. Correct. Because like we wouldn't even have access to things that were that specific. But now it's more than half of people say that they watch content that no one else they know personally is into, whether that's drums or something else, And I think that when you hear something like that, it totally has to challenge the notion of how we think about kind of broad entertainment.
Kevin, long form versus short form. Obviously, that again, I feel like it's almost archaic to speak about it in that way, but it really is, I think, a question that probably be on brands' minds, right? When you think about, what is valuable, what are consumers really engaging the most deeply with, that could end up having a good resonant effect for a brand.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to know is that from the viewers, they don't think about it as like, oh, I'm a short form viewer. Like, that's not really how these things break down. Certainly certain demographic groups spend more time in different places, but like I think 87% of people that we surveyed said they've watched content in at least 4 of the content formats that YouTube offers. So podcasts, short form, VODs, community posts. Like, there's a bunch of different formats now that exist. And so what happens is you actually see a lot of the way the creators approach it is not, oh, I'm going to do 75% of my content in short form and 25% of my content in long form. They don't think about it really in that way. I mean, it's a big generalization, but the way that you see from the way that they create their content is they think about the different user journeys that are happening, right? So let's say you've got a podcast channel, right? You might use the shorts to take little clips from that episode and edit them in a way that really works in short form, because you might introduce new audiences because it's easy to flip through those feeds. So you might discover a channel for the first time via that. And then you want to go deeper into it, then you watch the full episode later. And so there's kind of, I think the creators intuitively think about it like a journey of the depth of experience they're trying to create for their fans. Some creators use different formats to dimensionalize their content in different ways. So like there's Blogilates, which is a yoga channel. Their long form videos are all yoga content, Cassie Ho, but then on shorts, it's all about her like fashion line and stuff, because that's also a part of the kind of the brand of the thing that she's created. And that makes sense for her in that context. So I give that same advice to everybody trying to think about these distinctions, which is like, what is the experience that you're trying to take your consumer, your audience, your fan base on, and then how do you optimize the formats to make sense across that journey?
Got it. So let's wrap it up with this, and this might be like a tough question to answer, but what is one of the most surprising trends right now that you're seeing that you're kind of like, oh my God, like that's happening and it's happening? Like, is there something that's happening that, you could share with our audience that they would be like, wait, what? And I'm getting some inside scoop.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of odds and ends of creators just experimenting in weird ways. I saw a live stream that had a couple 100,000 views of a bunch of guys trying to find needles in haystacks dressed up in costumes. Like there's always kinds of like things that people are just like, oh, where is the audience coming from for this? But if I were to say the thing that I think is underrated and I think has a potential to have a lot of impact is, and this is something that people aren't really thinking about in this way, it is multi-track audio. And especially when you combine it with these AI tools, like the idea that someone could make a video and then it could be dubbed into another language, catch their intonations and things, and be available across the world from as a kind of pop culture nerd is fascinating to me. And you see like Mr. Beast, our biggest channel on YouTube, he's not using automatic dubbing. They're actually recording all these alternate audio tracks. His viewership has skyrocketed as he's created all these different audio tracks, and his subscriber base keeps growing because he's now accessing a global audience. And so the idea, and I'm less interested in the export part of it. I'm interested in the import part of it. Like, what are the things from Korea? We're just talking about Korean creators. What are the things coming from, other places that maybe I don't have access to because I don't speak that language that now I could have access to, is a really kind of fascinating, sort of lens on a lot of things we think about as like accessibility tools that people are playing with in new ways because of a lot of these new kind of technologies that are available.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on for hours. I find this so fascinating, and I hope the audience does too. This is why we're so excited to have Kevin with us today to share just some of these insights. We're definitely going to have you back if you'll come back.
Can I make a request?
Yeah.
Can you do the Phil Collins thing? Is that like, is this drum set, is this capable? Oh, love it.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight.